Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Adriana and No, that's so stiff. Sup, my name's Adriana and Too casual. Hi, I'm Adriana and I'm about to. Wait, what do I say after that? Whether you're meeting new coworkers, attending a networking event, or trying to ace a job interview, you're sure to benefit from knowing how to make a great first impression. But as crucial as this skill is for modern professionals, most people aren't born with the charisma one needs to easily charm strangers. After all, introducing yourself in a professional environment is a bit of a juggling act. You have to maintain your composure and remember to mention all the relevant information about yourself while also trying to appear confident and competent. Worse still, you have to figure out how to do all of that in 10 seconds or less, which is how long people take to form their first impressions. That's a pretty tough ask, even for the most skilled multitaskers among us. Luckily, I have some tips to help you check all those boxes. So, let's start with tip number 1. If you're going to be making your introduction in person or on camera, it's important to consider the very first message you will be sending to others. Before you even open your mouth to speak, others will have formed their first impressions of you based on the way you look and present yourself. So, be sure to always arrive at professional engagements dressed for the occasion. On the other hand, you also have certain features that are pretty much set in stone, such as the way your face looks. According to some reports, many people believe that they can detect traits such as warmth, trustworthiness, power, and dominance by simply analyzing people's faces. In a professional environment, this can have a real impact on people's perception of you. For example, if you have a more youthful appearance or a baby face, others may perceive you as more naive or even less competent than your peers. In that case, looking presentable may include taking steps to appear more mature by choosing the right outfit or makeup. If your features tend to lean towards the severe end of the spectrum and you're heading into a friendlier social situation, you may want to take steps to soften your appearance. In any case, taking the time to dress for success will also allow you to feel more confident when the time comes to deliver your introduction. Which brings us to our next piece of advice. Walking into an unfamiliar professional environment can be pretty nerve-wracking. Even the most self-assured people among us might find it difficult to stay confident in a situation like that. But introducing yourself confidently will certainly go over better than mumbling your way throughout the interaction. Of course, if you're not great at staying confident in high-stress situations, you can always fake it by making sure your body language isn't letting your anxiety show. Maintaining an open posture by keeping your back straight, your shoulders relaxed, and your arms and legs uncrossed should go a long way towards convincing others that you feel at ease. Other nonverbal cues you may use, depending on the situation, include keeping your facial expressions neutral or smiling, maintaining eye contact without staring excessively, and having a firm but not forceful handshake. On top of that, you should make sure your vocal tone, pitch, volume, and inflection are aligned with the image you're trying to convey. If nothing else, varying those vocal qualities throughout the conversation is a great way to appear as a more interesting and engaging speaker. You know what they say about preparation? It's the key to success. So, if you don't want to get tongue-tied when you're going to introduce yourself, make sure you know what you want to say. Generally speaking, most professional introductions should check some of the same boxes. After delivering your initial greeting, you want to state your name and job title, or at least provide a brief description of what you do. For example, "Hi, I'm Adriana and I work at cake.com." Or you can expand and personalize that by saying something like, "Hi, I don't think we've met before. I'm Adriana and I'm a video presenter. I work with Mariana." In this case, mentioning a mutual acquaintance like Mariana might increase your chances of getting a positive response from a person you're talking to. Keeping these things in mind should help you deliver better written and in-person communication by preventing you from rambling and oversharing. However, this is not to say that you should learn your introduction by heart. Remember, you're working into a conversation, so leave some room for improv, but keep it short. After all, other people are also waiting for their turn to speak. Ultimately, the goal of introduction is to spark a conversation. The way you end your introduction may well determine the course of that conversation. So after sharing basic information about yourself, be sure to pass the ball and let others speak. Ask questions and take real interest in their answers. You can show your interest by employing certain nonverbal cues, such as nodding from time to time, and while you're at it, keep interruptions to a minimum. As the conversation draws to a close, remember to show appreciation for the people you've spoken to by saying something like, "It was a pleasure meeting you," or "I'm looking forward to talking to you again." As with any of these tips, the exact words you use will depend on the situation and the purpose of your conversation. After all, when it comes to talking to people, you have to be able to adjust your approach depending on the circumstances. Once you have considered all the aspects of your introduction, you should think about how it will be delivered and adjust accordingly. For example, if you're sending someone an email for the first time, the first impression you make won't come from the contents of the email. Instead, it's the subject line that will have to do the heavy lifting of getting the other person's attention. So, just like your appearance can make or break your in-person introductions, things like subject lines can be used to set the scene for email introductions. On the other hand, let's say you're a remote worker and mostly use a team communication app like Pumble to speak with your coworkers. Even before you have direct conversations with someone, you'll have plenty of chances to create first impressions. For example, in a Pumble workspace, companies can create as many public or private channels as they need, with some of them being open to all employees and others only to certain users. Depending on your company culture, you may even have designated channels for non-work related topics. In any case, if you engage in casual conversation in these channels, you may end up on people's radars without even knowing it. So, the things you post about and the way you virtually present yourself will naturally affect those first impressions you have, as well as your future communications with coworkers. To take the scenario a step further, let's imagine you having to ask a favor from a coworker in a different team. If they've seen your name come up in those more relaxed channels a few times, they may feel more inclined to help you when you reach out. Conversely, if they remember you made some controversial posts a few weeks ago, they may decline to do you any favors at all. So, if you do end up in the position of having to ask for help, a good reputation could increase your chances of having a successful interaction. Having gone over all our best tips for making a professional introduction, let's point out the most common mistakes some people make in these kinds of situations. For one, some people tend to use the same introduction every time they speak to someone they know through work. But shouldn't the way you speak to higher ups or potential clients differ from the way you speak to your peers? After all, peer-to-peer communication tends to be more relaxed. On top of that, you won't always have to check off one of those boxes I mentioned earlier. For example, if people can see your name in a video call, you may not have to say it when you introduce yourself. Next, take into account the cultural differences that may exist between you and the person you're speaking to. So, if you work for a multinational company, take the time to familiarize yourself with your coworkers' cultures and related conversational preferences. And while we're on the subject of the mistakes some people make during their introductions, we should also mention the attitude they bring to the conversation. Coming across as bored, or worse, annoyed, is a sure way to earn a poor reputation. So, make sure you're present in the conversation by not glancing around or checking your phone. Try to stick to positive topics and avoid negativity if you can. In other words, don't complain in front of people you've never met before. Having to fix a bad first impression would take much more effort than simply refraining from grouching in the first place. Let's be honest, most of us use internal communication software like Pumble to talk to our coworkers, even when we share an office space. So, chances are much of your reputational building will take place in those virtual channels I've mentioned before. You can also put some representative emojis next to your name and even change the emojis you use to show your status and availability if your company culture allows it. In this example, you can see that the usual lunch status is represented with a hamburger emoji. But I want everyone to know I'm a sushi fanatic, so I'll just use that emoji instead. Aside from these things, you can also make sure your job title is listed right under your name, so others know exactly what your position within the company is if they need your help. All of these tweaks will be more visible if you start engaging with your coworkers more frequently on those casual channels. So, be sure to take advantage of everything Pumble has to offer, and let me know how it goes. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to see what else we have in store for you. Until next time.